This video was brought to you by a better planner, Kempower, Markus Bil, Stormberg and Bilkomponenter. Yo, what's up? We're now sitting in the Mercedes EQS Manufaktur. And in this video, I'm going to talk about Tesla. Yes, I've just happened to be on a trip with my family now. But I saw recently there's been a case circulating some places. That Tesla created this secret team to suppress thousands of driving-related complaints. So I just want to give you guys my input on it. After driving Tesla for almost 10 years, there's some of the stuff I saw in here that I disagree with. So let's, I will just skip through here. You can read the whole article yourself, or maybe just Google about this. Just Google for Reuters, and then this one, you'll find it. But I will link it. So, yeah, they say that about a decade ago, roughly when I bought the Millennium Falcon, right? They said that they rigged the dashboard to show you rosy projection of how far. Yeah, so that's the whole thing here. And they also mentioned this this guy. He bought recently a Model 3, a second-hand one, and then he would go on a road trip. And 353 miles is roughly 560 kilometers of range. You know, so okay, I have to explain a little bit about how Tesla works. Tesla, unlike many car manufacturers, Tesla will have a fixed rate. So unlike what some people even claim, even Tesla people claim that that the rated range and the indicated range is variable. It depends on, it changes, depends on your driving style. No, I have tested so many times. I figured out that it's a flat rate. No matter how you drive, it doesn't change the rate predictions. But there is a little bit deeper than that. But let me just explain here. So Tesla, or the car, knows how many kilowatt hour it has from 100% down to 0%. And then there's also a buffer below 0. And then based on the kilowatt hour you have, based on degradation also, right? You will then get a certain amount of kilometers of range in the display. But then all the Teslas, like my Millennium Falcon, you then had a setting for, it was called typical and rated. Typical was the more realistic range. If I would charge Millennium Falcon back then, when it was new, right, I would charge it to 100% and switch it to rated. It would show a little bit over 500 kilometers of range, which is, I mean, it's achievable, but it's achievable during summer when you have HVAC off, maybe in the drive like a grandma. But then during winter, if you drive on the motorway, you might only get around 250 kilometers of range. And this is the problem, because Tesla shows you that very optimistic range. You can switch it to typical, and then it will show you roughly 400 kilometers of range on a full charge. But then Tesla also has changed the algorithm over time. So I remember that in the beginning, yeah, I was getting 400 kilometers of range when I used typical. I soon figured out that rated was very unrealistic. I stopped using it. But then also, yeah, it would charge to a little bit over 400 kilometers of range. But then one day I received an update. It was probably around 8 years ago, I don't remember. Suddenly, instead of getting a little bit over 400 kilometers, I got only about 385 kilometers. I was like, huh? But it was just the way Tesla changed the algorithm, changed the constant, so that it will show you a slightly more realistic range. That's all. You still had the same number of kilowatt hour from 100% to 0%. So the practical range did not change really. But this is the problem, because people, they look at the display and they believe it, of course. Many believe. That's the problem, because if you look at the car's display, for example, and it shows you that you have 1% left, or even on your phone, you will of course expect that you can use that phone or drive that car until 0%. And it would be weird if the car would stop at 1%, right? And that's the problem with the display here that Tesla uses. It's a flat rate that doesn't change. But then what about other cars like this Mercedes? Most other cars, they will have something called GOM. It's guessometer. It will take the last few hundred kilometers that you actually drove, take that average, and then divide that that variable instead by the capacity of the battery to find out how many kilometers you can drive. And in a way, that is better, because during winter the consumption will be higher versus summer, and then you will get a more realistic range. But the problem with that calculation is that if you've been driving from a mountain downhill and you had to drive slow on a typical mountain road, right? You would then get nice and low consumption numbers. But then if your next leg is on a motorway with maybe some wet roads and higher speed, then suddenly whatever you had on the display is highly unrealistic. But some cars, they have a better approach, like Tesla, like this Mercedes or some other cars, is that you input where you're going on the navigation, and then it will show you how many % you will arrive with. That is way better. I stopped using the kilometers of range indicated a long time ago. And then some cars like Audi, BMW, they even changed the GOM, or I mean, they changed the indicator range based on where you're navigating. So if you would navigate up a mountain, you will suddenly see that the kilometers in the display drops. So that's actually way better. Yeah, this guy, Alexandre, he was confused because he would expect to get the indicated range here, right? But it was in March, and this was California, and also he was probably driving on the interstate, maybe going around 75, 80 miles per hour, around 120, 130 kilometers per hour. So of course you're not going to get that range, 650 kilometers range. Everyone knows that, right? Well, they should. And then he suspected that something was wrong, and he contacted Tesla. But Tesla, they could figure out remotely what was wrong. I even called Tesla one time and asked them if they could look into my car and find out the battery temperature. They could even do that. So it's not rocket science, this, right? But they figured out that there's nothing wrong with the car. They probably look at the state of health and maybe, state of health and maybe battery capacity. And they soon realized that, no, there's nothing wrong with the car, but it's just, winter and stuff. So the interesting thing is that Tesla made this diversion team to cancel range-related appointments. But I mean, this is almost like a hint to Elon or Tesla. If you need to make a team to cancel range-related appointments, there must be something wrong with your software. Yeah, that's my claim. You can just read about this yourself, about the whole team here. There's some weird stuff that they every time they cancel whatever, But why do we even have to have a team in the first place? You have to employ people to talk to these customers, and why don't you change the software? Because the rest of the industry is using some kind of GOM-based system, which requires slightly more processing power, and you have to track the history. But Tesla, they already have pretty fast CPUs, right? And like this Mercedes that is running on a 286. So they could just do that, and it will actually give you a way better indication. That's my claim. So instead, there must be something wrong with the software, since lots of people are claiming this. And also, I think another problem why so many Tesla owners are confused about this is because you look at the range of Tesla when you charge it, but then when you look at the trip meter, you might collect trip over several days, maybe weeks, before you run low on battery. But the problem with Tesla is that when you preheat the battery, or there's also some sentry mode going on, there's also some vampire drain and stuff going on. If you charge the car to 100%, and then over time you use several things that sucks battery, those are not counted in the trip meter. Even this Mercedes, it counts some stuff, like when I'm just idling now and I'm using heater, it counts it in the trip meter. But if I preheat the battery, it does not count in the trip meter. And then I think that's what the Tesla owners are, they make a mistake, because they use the battery, or they might just let it sit still and run sentry mode. And then there are some hidden consumers that you don't see. So when you look at the battery capacity from 100% down to 0%, it looks like you have less kilowatt hour. So this is a tip for you, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of Tesla owners out there. If you want to know how your battery health is, I have a pretty good method. I didn't invent this. There was someone else who explained to me how this should be done. Is that you need to charge the battery to 100%, and then discharge it or drive it, right, to almost 0%. And then you can see how many kilowatt hour you have discharged from the battery. And that is a way better estimation than spending 1 week or several, because you then have hidden consumers and you don't see the real consumption there. So I mean, it's quite deep. Like, you shouldn't hammer. There's a lot of stuff also you can, but I can't explain all this. But there's one simple way to do it. Or if you plug in some kind of like ScanMyTesla, it will also show you the capacity in there. There's a variable in there. So you can already do this yourself, or there's even some third-party apps you can, I forgot about those. You can install some app, and then via the API, it will also figure out your state of health. It give you some indication of how many kilowatt hour you have. So yeah, that's several ways of figuring out this. But yeah, back to the topic here again. So yeah, the whole thing here, I mean, I'm not gonna explain, I mean, I'm not gonna deny anything. This is just, when I read about this, yeah, it sounds very plausible that Tesla has all this stuff. It wouldn't surprise me, all this stuff. But there was one thing I reacted on, which is this one. So it says, yeah, Tesla years ago began exaggerating its vehicle. The problem here is that they showed the rated range, the NEDC range, right? Very optimistic range. And people believe it, and then that became a problem. But one thing I was I disagree on is that they claim that when you charge the car to 100%, it will give you a very optimistic range. But when you drive it down, let's say here, below 50%, it will then show you a more realistic projection. No, that ain't right, buddy. I don't know where you got that information from, but I have been testing Teslas for so many years. Combined now with all the Teslas I own, plus all the Teslas I have borrowed, I've probably driven 700,000-800,000 kilometers, maybe, a lot. I spent a lot of time looking at stuff, calculating stuff. Tesla has dead linear percent scale, or the percent scale, or the kilometer scale. So you could, back in the days, right, I figured out that 1 kilometer was 189 watt-hour per kilometer on my Tesla Model S, and I could then figure out percent, or more accurately percent, right? Based on that, I could say that, okay, we have 55.2% left based on the kilometers. It's that accurate, and also it's linear, meaning that when you look at how many kilowatt hour, this is also a very easy way to figure out, is your state of charge scale linear or not? You charge the car to 100%, and then you start driving down to, let's say, 90%. And based on the trip meter, you can then calculate how much you have consumed versus how many percent. And you can already then estimate how many kilowatt hour you have total. And then if you repeat that at 80%, 70%, 60%, down to 10%, you will see that the kilowatt hour that you calculate during that process down, it will be the same. It's a slight variation, of course, because of measurement error, but it will be more or less the same. That means that it is linear. But then some cars, like the Korean cars, is not linear. In the beginning, it will look like you have a lot more kilowatt hour than you have, but then as you go deeper, you will get closer to the true state of charge. And because the percent scale is not linear. And this one here, so they claim that Tesla has a non-linear scale. No, that is not right. They have dead linear scale. And this is what I like about Tesla, is that you can then, based on percent or kilometers, calculate stuff. I have calculated stuff so many times, and it's very accurate. And then here, yeah, Tesla also, they have a safety buffer. Okay, they mentioned that, but this is nothing new. I have measured, okay, we can check something here. This is my spreadsheet, actual real world test. If you go to 0 mile test, you will see here that I have driven a lot of cars down to 0, and you will see that this is the 0 buffer. This is the kilowatt hour you get below 0. Yeah, the Model Y Performance actually had 4. Oh, no, it was new. It was a bit, but you see that many cars, they actually have a 0 buffer. And Tesla is not unique. Some cars, they will actually stop at around 0, but many cars, they have a 0 buffer. So it's nothing new, really. And then, yeah, let's just keep scrolling. You can just read all this, but that is just where did they get that from? The whole non-linear scale. And then also they mentioned, yeah, that the Tesla was actually they were fine in Korea for having too optimistic range, right? There's a screenshot here from the Korean. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. So because they claim too optimistic range, and it was not like that. Yeah, if Tesla was fine for this, why did not the Korean brands like Kia and Hyundai get fined for not having linear state-of-charge scale? Because that have caught me off guard many times when I drive the car. Let me explain the problem here. If you drive the car, right, a Kia or a Hyundai, you start with 100% and then you start driving, and then at 50%. You think, oh, this is going great. Yeah, we can keep going. No, because you expect that you can drive it down to almost 0%, right? But then the first 50% of the Kia Hyundai scale is not 50%. It might be something like 55% of the battery or the capacity. And then you only have 45 or 40% left. So then you will get caught with your pants down. So it actually messes up things when you try to figure out if you can make it there or not. And even worse, some cars, even the percentage, yeah, this is Volkswagen ID3, for example. Maybe they fixed that in later up there. But I remember that in ID3 or some of the other cars, when you even look at the GOM, that the car claims you can make it there, right? Based on the kilometers. There is no uphill or anything like that. Everything is more stable, constant, like flat road. But then somehow the indicated range towards the end drops way faster than beginning, and that also messes you up. And then you have to then be a ninja, because you then have to have an extra margin when you need to drive 50 more kilometers and the car says 50 kilometers away that you can make it there. No, you can't make it there. Yeah, why are they not being fine, right? So I'm just trying to be honest here. Okay, Tesla was fine because of this. It sounds like someone was just crying to get some, I don't know, I don't know about that one. But, and again, on the other hand, Tesla, they should have fixed this by showing a more realistic range in cold weather. But on the other hand, why didn't these guys just use the range estimation? If you navigate somewhere, Tesla will tell you how many percent it will arrive with, and it's dead accurate. In this article, they mentioned that it was not that accurate. I have tested it so many times. As long as I don't go barely legal speeds, speed limit plus VAT, as long as I follow the speed limits, it will actually be dead accurate. And not only that, if for some reason you cannot make it there, Tesla will even tell you on the display, stay below 120 kilometers per hour to reach the destination. And then if it's even worse, stay below 90 kilometers per hour to reach the destination. Right? Tesla is highly advanced. It uses weather conditions, it uses temperature, it uses speed limit, elevation. It uses lots of factors to determine whether you can make it to your destination or not. Tesla has some of the most advanced estimation, calculation for figuring out how many percent you will arrive with. I've tested also many other cars. They also give you some percent estimate, but many of them are just way off. You think you can make it there, but then by the end of the day, no, you can't make it there. But of course, also Tesla sometimes shows you some weird, it depends on each leg. Yeah, I noticed this. It depends which leg. When I drive the 1,000 kilometer challenge, some legs are dead accurate, some other legs are way off also. Okay. And here is another claim, is that Tesla, well, at least they found out that Tesla has the worst performance when it comes to range. I also find that a little bit puzzling, because when I have so many different tests there, but here we have the Sunday driving test. I actually drive a little bit under the speed limit on Norwegian highways, and the average speed is quite low, around 70 kilometers per hour only. That's around 45 miles per hour. But I not only do this with Tesla. You see, I tested so many cars, and you will see here that I also checked the VLTP range versus the range I would get, and you see that many cars, they will go over the indicated the VLTP range, but it's not okay, some Teslas, like here, I don't know what's up with this one. It was a little bit cold. Yeah, then I got less range than what I supposed to get. But it's not unique, really. Some other cars also didn't get the best range. But in general, you will see that some Teslas, they will go above the VLTP, and some will get not so great. But also, yeah, you can see the result. Tesla is not unique. Tesla didn't get the worst result like they claim. And I also have something else here. But you see, this is not VLTP, because VLTP cycle is based on some city driving, some highway driving, some acceleration, some city lights. So it's not VLTP. It's just, you know, don't confuse it with that one. But it's like a way to see what you can get. Yeah. And then I also have another thing is a range test. Here, a slightly different format of driving. Then I drive at constant speed, either 90 or 120 kilometers per hour on the motorway. But it's also to give you some kind of indication of what you can expect for range. And you can also just see here, Tesla or other cars also, what range I got. And then this is also useful. Yeah, I can show you here, by the way. If you have a Tesla or other cars, and you're wondering what your battery capacity is, I have already tested thousands. Wait, how many lines do I have here? Shit, okay. But yeah, I've tested many cars, not thousands, but you can see here how many kilowatt hour your car is supposed to have if I charge it to 100% and drive it almost down to zero, and I extrapolate the remaining. And then by checking here, you can find out if your battery has lower capacity or not, right? You also have to count in some degradation. Yeah, that's also another thing. If you have an old Tesla, how much degradation do you have or should you have? It depends, but if your Tesla is about 10 years old, you probably have around 10%. You can almost say that each year you get roughly 1% degradation. It's not linear, but roughly that in that ballpark. So yeah, but you can also look here, by the way, and see what kind of range you get versus this one. I don't have the VLTP, but again, I have seen many times that Tesla, they can actually match or my 90 kilometers per hour test, which is not the same as VLT, but then my 90 test can match VLTP. And you can also ask yourself also, when you look at this one, how useful is the VLTP range for you? Because if you drive around city, you will have you might then have a VLTP like cycle where you have some motorway and some cities. But when you're going a long range, a long trip, that's where the range matters. But then it's suddenly not VLTP anymore, because then you have more like you're driving on the highway, right, on a constant speed. So, but then when you're around city, you should have charging capability somewhere. So then it doesn't really matter what the VLTP range is, right? Yeah. Also this one here. So the South Korea regulations. Okay. They claim that Tesla lost up to 50% ago. Okay. Unless they have an old Tesla that can show you rated range. I'm just trying to think here. If I had Millennium Falcon that shows me 500 kilometers of range, and if I would only get 250 kilometers of range during winter, then yeah, that would be true. But I think the problem here is that they are mixing two things here. Is that yes, during winter you will, with every car, every electric car, even fossil cars, you get reduced range because of winter. It's just physics. Yeah, I remember that Nissan e-Power I tested. It had, at some legs I had 13 liters per 100 kilometer of fuel consumption because of winter. Yeah, but okay, back here. So there's no way you lose 50% of the range because of winter. But I suspect that they lost range because they were driving on motorway. Yeah, 120, 130 kilometers per hour versus driving in city speeds. Of course, then you get what you were supposed to get, right? According to the rated range or the indicated range. So what I have tested again is that Tesla is among it's the best when it comes to not losing range during winter. Because Tesla, they have something quite unique in the car industry. They have octoval. They have heat scavenging, which is not unique. Many car manufacturers, they also have heat scavenging, but even Tesla had it from 2013. Millennium Falcon had heat scavenging, but it was just few modes. It could scavenge heat from the electric motor and then put it in the battery to heat up the battery. Oh yeah, there was something else also I mentioned. Yeah, here. So they say that, I'm not sure if this is Reuters' own words or what, or they got it from somewhere else. Electric cars lose range because of winter. Yeah, it says that the coal is particularly dry. Okay. And then slowing the chemical and physical reactions inside the batteries. Okay. Yeah. And then they mention other things that increase. But this one I was reacting. Okay. So the coal, yes, true, but like I mentioned, Millennium Falcon, 10-year-old Tesla, has heat scavenging. When you drive the car in winter, it will then take the leftover heat from the motor or the motors and then put it in the battery to heat up the battery. So even when it was minus 20 degrees outside, the battery will be staying at 20, 25 degrees because of heat scavenging. And that means that this thing here, yes, this is only true when you start with a cold battery, but once you start driving on a long trip, that's where the range matters, right? It won't be a problem anymore. And then, yeah, I mentioned the whole octavalve thing, because Tesla, like, I don't even remember all the modes they have, but Tesla will use leftover heat from the battery, from the motors, from inverters, from onboard charger. It has a just big ecosystem of heat in the system that they can use to move somewhere else when needed. For example, it can divert all the heat into heating up the battery before fast charging to get the best charging speed during winter. Or it can take heat from the battery and the motor to heat up the cabin to save energy during winter. So this came with roughly, I think it was 2021, I don't remember, when Tesla introduced heat pump and octavalve. That's where everything changes. My Tesla Model S from 2013 is not that efficient during winter because it doesn't have all the modes. It doesn't even have heat pump. So it uses PTC heater during winter. And there I remember that with Millennium Falcon, I would usually see around 20% decrease in range or 20% higher consumption during winter. But then with the latest and greatest Tesla, I don't remember exactly, but roughly 10% only. 10% drop during winter. And when I tested Tesla, going to really cold places like Folldal, Alvdal, when it was minus 20, minus 25 degrees Celsius, Tesla kicked ass for the Lord. It had the lowest consumption ever versus the Korean cars. I tested also e-Niro during, and I also tested ID3. And I also tested recently Neo ET7. Versus Tesla Model S Plaid. Tesla, really, they have the best tech. Yeah, this is, you can argue that, Bjørn, you are a Tesla fanboy. No, I have tested this. I found this myself. If you don't believe me, you can do it yourself. You scan my Tesla, go on a trip when it's minus 20, minus 30 degrees Celsius, the colder the better. You will see that Tesla is just outstanding when it comes to consumption. And like a pro tip is, in Tesla, if it's really cold outside, if you want to save energy, go supercharge. Supercharge for around 20 minutes, half an hour. You build up lots of heat in the battery, and that battery is a big accumulator for heat, and then you can scavenge that heat on the next leg, and you will have almost summer consumption right after you fast charge. It doesn't even have to be supercharger. You can just be on a fast charger or high power charger. So that's quite unique. Other car manufacturers, they still fail to do it as well as Tesla does it. But like I said, it was never like this always. It was recently, a couple of years ago, when they introduced the octavalve. So yeah, I'm not sure what else I should show you. There's just lots of stuff here. I don't defend the weird stuff that Tesla does with the whole the virtuals, what do you call it again? Yeah, that team or whatever. You know, that's weird. But there was just a couple of things I reacted on in this article, and I claim that it's wrong. But I also want to make this video to maybe enlighten some of the stuff here, to give some hint to Tesla owners how you can determine whether there is something wrong with the battery. But like I say, that in general, Tesla batteries, I have not seen many cases where Tesla batteries fail and they get a great decrease. Normally, if there's something wrong with your battery, the car itself will tell you that there's something wrong, and then you have to go to the service center and get it fixed under warranty, hopefully. Some other cars that I've tested, even press cars, brand spanking new press cars. I remember Mercedes EQC I tested, and also it was a Volkswagen ID5, wasn't it? Yeah. And was it something else? I don't remember. Yeah, but at least those two cars, they actually had a significant drop in battery capacity, but the car never told me. I figured it out myself because I'm some kind of ninja, and I figured out that there was way less capacity than normal. And yeah, when I asked the importers, they figured, yeah, there's something wrong. But those cars never told me that something was wrong with the battery. So yeah, I just want to give you guys my input on this. And you can go read the article yourself. It's a long and good read, interesting. Yeah, so anyway, I think that's going to be it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, thank you for watching, and talk to you later.